Respected doctors and dignitaries, a very good afternoon to you all. Hope you and your families are safe in this pandemic. I, Dr. Anil Jaiswal, Head of the Medical Services of Corona Remedies, welcome you all for today's webinar on teamwork in fetal cardiac anomalies, a practical approach in association with FOXI and Society of Fetal Medicine. We thank Dr. Alpesh Gandhi and Dr. Ashok Khurana for giving us this opportunity to organize today's scientific webinar. Now I invite Dr. Sunil Shah to moderate the webinar proceedings. Dr. Sunil Shah is an IVF consultant in Ahmedabad. His special interests include RPL and RIF. He is the Joint Secretary of FOXI. He is the Honorary Secretary of AOGS Ahmedabad. He is the Joint Secretary of the Gujarat chapter of ISAR. He is past VP of Ahmedabad. He is the Joint Secretary of AICOG 2017, past Treasurer of AOGS, has received many awards in FOXI, and Gujarat Shresthi, a prestigious award from the CM of Gujarat, Sri Rupani Sahib, has presented him. Dr. Sunil Shah.
Thank you, Dr. Jaiswal. Thank you very much for a nice introduction. I welcome on behalf of FOXI all the delegates. Today we have a wonderful speaker and a very dynamic, very knowledgeable chairperson, Dr. Ashok Khurana, with us. Dr. Balu is going to speak on the teamwork for cardiac anomalies, which we always want to learn so much, and Dr. Balu is expert about this thing. So first of all, I will introduce Dr. Ashok Khurana, sir. Can I have a CV of Dr. Ashok Khurana, sir? Dr. Ashok Khurana has been trained in sonography in Denmark in ultrasound, and currently sir is a chairman and consultant in reproductive ultrasound at Ultrasound Lab, New Delhi, India. He has been practicing ultrasound in New Delhi a long back from 1981. He is a professor, School of Health Sciences, Dubrovnik International University. Sir is a professor of Indian Medical Association 2017 to 2020, and he is a ambassador of ISUOG, that is International Society of Ultrasound in Obstetrics and Gynecology, and he has published original work in ultrasound detection of endometrial cancer in international journals, published Doppler norms for Indian patients in leading Indian journals, and has authored 2 textbooks, 3D and 4D ultrasound, a text and atlas, and step-by-step breast ultrasound. Sir is the immediate past president of the Society of Fetal Medicine and is the editor-in-chief of Journal of Fetal Medicine. May I have a CV of Dr. Balu, sir? I take privilege to introduce, it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Balu Vaidyanathan. Sir is a clinical professor, pediatric cardiology and head fetal cardiology division, Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences, Kerala, Cochin. And his areas of interest is prenatal diagnosis of congenital heart defects, advanced 3D, 4D and stick fetal echocardiography. He has done training in fetal heart screening protocols. His major career achievements includes official training coordinator for Government of Kerala and National Health Mission Kerala in fetal heart training program for obstetricians as well as radiologists. Sir is a national coordinator for fetal cardiology work groups of Society of Fetal Medicine of India and Pediatric Cardiology Society of India. He is a trainer in the fetal heart education programs of the International Society of Ultrasound in OBGY, that is ISUOG, and member of Global Fetal Heart Focus Group of Volution GE Austria, and global trainer for Volution GE 3D 4D fetal echocardiography, Asian and South Asian segments. Next, please. Next slide, please. Major clinical and academic achievements of Dr. Balu is his clinical expertise in established the fetal cardiology division at Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences, one of the largest dedicated fetal cardiology services in Asia. Pioneered the concept of prenatal diagnosis and planned delivery of neonates with critical congenital heart defects. Performed the first successful in utero intervention for a fetus with structural heart defect, fetal balloon aortic valve dilatation in the state of Kerala. That's a great achievement. And teaching and training activities, more than 300 lectures in various global professional platforms, including World Congress of Pediatric Cardiology and Fetal Medicine Foundation Congress. He has conducted more than 75 hands-on laptop-based and online training workshops in fetal echo in national and international forums. His research activities includes more than 50 papers in domain of fetal cardiology in various national, international peer-reviewed and indexed journals and textbooks in past 15 years. And professional societies include, is a convener of Fetal Cardiology Working Group of Pediatric Cardiac Society of India, Society of Fetal Medicine of India, member of American College of Cardiology, Indian Academy of Pediatrics, International Society of Ultrasound in Obstetrics and Gynecology, and Cardiology Society of India. It's a great pleasure, and we are very eager to listen Dr. Balu Vaidyanathan. Please, sir. Dr. Balu.
So,
Dr. Ashok Khurana. Yes, sir.
Can I begin, sir? Ashok, sir?
Yes, Dr.
Balu, I want to add one word about you before we go ahead with your talk. And,
okay,
and that is something which is so important, and that is that you've helped translate an ultrasound finding into a healthy living individual so many times. And that truly is his real introduction. You send him the sickest of fetuses and they come out with the nicest of outcomes. And I am the first to receive the sweets that they distribute when the child is 5 years old. And that's not happened once, that's not happened twice, that's happened again and again. And that, I think, is his true introduction. It's very nice to have him here because he represents the pioneer in teamwork, where he has made sure that he has put all of us on the same page, and you will understand that when he talks to you, whether we are a practicing obstetrician or a high-risk obstetrician, a fetal medicine specialist or a radiologist, a cardiac surgeon or a geneticist, he's made sure we all speak the same language. It's not been easy, and you will hear about his wonderful day-to-day work and how he makes this happen. Also, and that's very important for our part of the world, he makes it happen at the minimal of cost possible to that suffering family. And that really is the essence of this man whom I admire so much. I'm really grateful to Foxy, Dr. Alpesh Gandhi and Dr. Sunil Shah for having him over as a guest speaker on this program. And of course, my thanks to Dr. Jaiswal and Vasu of Corona to have put this program together. So over to you, Balu, and I know you will give us the best afternoon in a long time.
Thank you so much, sir. I think those words are very special because I absolutely believe in this philosophy. Ultimately, we all will put patient in the center of the algorithm, and there is nothing more exciting than, you know, when you see a baby healthy, hearty, and doing so well, and that is the ultimate prize, which I think that's a prize only God can give to us. So thank you so much for those introduction, and permit me to share my screen, which you will all see. Yes. So can you see my screen, sir?
Yes, very well seen.
Okay, fine. So actually, if you see the picture of in my screen, this was drawn by my colleague in cardiac surgery. This is a picture of the heart, which shows the right atrium, the ventricle, the outflow. What he has actually done is he has actually put all the components which take part in the management of a newborn or a child with heart defects into this. So there are people who feed patients to us or feed information to us. maybe that is where we all are. We diagnose and refer and we confirm the diagnosis. Maybe the surgeons would be the pump, and finally the output will be the what we finally get out of this whole sequence. So this is by Dr. Balaji Sri Murugan, and very, very elegantly he epitomized the concept of the teamwork in pediatric and fetal cardiology through this picture. So today, what I'm going to do is going to make it very simple and focus mostly on the concept of teamwork. But before I do that, it's important that we understand a little bit about what are these heart defects. Are all the same, or is it different? Do we have a spectrum? And we will also look into the relevance of prenatal diagnosis in our context. The core is about the teamwork. So hence, I'm going to share a lot about our team. I think my greatest fortune has been that I'm able to work in a team which is able to produce these outcomes. And after I introduce my team and our how we function, then we will also share some of the data of what this teamwork can actually produce for the management of heart defects. And we will see how this model can be scaled up and what it lies ahead for us in the future. Now, the reason why we all are here is because we jointly and together we accept the fact that one of the biggest problems which fetal medicine and obstetrics and radiology and cardiology all face is that we are now going to have this increasingly bigger issue due to congenital malformations. Both death rates due to other causes like perinatal asphyxias, infections, diarrhea, and so on are coming down. And hence, the proportion of infant deaths due to these congenital malformations is going up. So, and congenital heart defects is one of the biggest malformations, and that's why it's important that these are diagnosed as early as possible. The prevalence is about 6 to 8 per 1,000 live births, and of this, about 25% are critical. Our country has one of the largest fast-growing populations in the world, and we produce something like 250,000 babies a year. And we produce 25 million babies a year. And it is expected that about 250,000 babies are likely to be born with congenital heart defects every year in India. Of this, about 1 lakh babies will need surgery within the first year of life, and about 1,000 will need surgery in the newborn period itself. Now, when we talk about congenital heart defects or fetal heart defects, they are not the same. You have a big spectrum. On one side, we have very minor lesions, which perhaps do not have much significance even in the postnatal life. This includes conditions like small muscular VSD, a bicuspid aortic valve without stenosis, mild forms of pulmonic stenosis, mild tricuspid regurgitation, then the very common echogenic focus, which is not strictly a heart defect, but it is included in this because we get this very commonly. Then we have major lesions which often require correction, typically in the first year of life. This includes the classical conditions like tetralogy of Fallot, transposition of great arteries, double outlet right ventricle, coarctation of aorta, common arterial trunk, a large ventricular septal defect, and then more major lesions like single ventricle. The final extreme end of the spectrum are the very complex lesions. So this includes entities like hypoplastic left heart syndrome, complex lesions like heterotaxy, complex pulmonary atheresias, very severe Epstein's anomaly, etc. So when obstetricians try to understand the fetal heart defects, it is important for you to acknowledge the fact that not all heart defects are the same. There are many things which do not even need any treatment. And then there are the extreme spectrum where even with surgery, you are not going to get a perfect result, but somewhere in between, the most of the lesions will fall. Now, I want to start this lecture by introducing this classical Indian paradox. Now, we have outstandingly brilliant individuals in this country. And in the past, I think in 1975 in World Cup, the first cricket World Cup, Gavaskar actually carried the bat through an entire 60-over match in Indian cricket, and he scored 36 runs. And it was like he was not out as well. So it was told that he could actually negotiate any bowler in the world, anywhere in the world. But then we were not winning at that point. It took Kapil Dev, and now we know how good our team is. Yesterday, against all odds, we got a draw against Australia and Sydney, against the full-strength Australia. So the teamwork is essentially was lacking. initially. And the equivalent of this in our specialty is this. The pregnant woman is seen by different specialists like obstetricians, fetal medicine specialists, radiologists, and in the case of fetal heart defects, the cardiologists. But we used to function like this. We were not working together. The obstetrician will have their version, the fetal medicine will do their version, radiologist will image, and a cardiologist will talk a lot of things with no connect to the rest of the others. So what was happening is, even though we could get these beautiful pictures, this is transposition of great arteries with parallel outflow tracts. The pictures were wonderful, but this is what used to happen. The babies used to die. This is a newborn. You can see that there is bleeding from the nose, intubated. The color is very bad, in a very critical condition. So this was the fetal cardiology translation of this lack of teamwork. So shouldn't we change this? So I think one letter has to be substituted, me, the M has to be substituted with W, and so we get a much better word, we. And that is what we are doing together. We are doing this together, not alone. And that will translate into all of us contributing our bit into the bigger picture. And that is what I am going to show today, what this can do. And the center of the algorithm has to be the patient always. No. So before we move on, we need to understand the fact that India is a very large country and the pediatric cardiac care is not available everywhere freely, and it may be expensive, and there are limited availability of public sector tertiary level pediatric cardiac care except for a few institutes. So what is very important is that we may have to adopt a policy where we have a kind of situation where we focus more on lesions which can be corrected rather than lesions which can be only palliated. So that is what is going to offer you optimal resource utilization. Now, when you have prenatal diagnosis, now we have the capability not only to diagnose fetal heart defects, but we can throw our net wide and look at all the other things like extra cardiac problems, genetic problems. We can do a full counseling, understanding of what the heart defect is, how does it present at birth. And we have institutions. There are about 30-35 centers doing pediatric heart surgery in India. We know the outcomes and we also know the costs, and there are different ways to support the families as well. And based on the gestational age of the patient, you have different options. The usual option, which most people think of, is termination of pregnancy. But I will argue at the end of my presentation that that's not an option for all heart defects. Perhaps for a few lesions, that may be the best option, but not for all. The other option is, of course, what I am interested in and what I'll be focusing more on, where you actually plan the delivery and provide the postnatal cardiac care. Then you have, in a very small subset of patients, the option of in utero therapy, which I'll briefly touch upon. And the final option is what I call planned comfort care. This typically happens when we have a late diagnosis of a very complex heart defect. The family is not prepared for a heart surgery, but they take an informed decision that they won't treat, and we provide basic newborn care and allow the nature to take its course. So this is sometimes a reasonable option, and many countries, developed countries, particularly Scandinavian countries, do this when you are faced with a very complex heart defect, which I'll be showing later. Now, the option of termination, of course, I'm not going to delve into the nitty-gritties of it, will have to be based on the local, regional, and the national laws and regulations, which now these days there are efforts to sort of modify some of this, but then always go by the law. I am going to now take you to Kerala, and because I work here and I want to share the experience of developing a service in this state for the past 10 to 15 years. We have a population of about 35 million. The infant mortality, it needs to be corrected. Now it's 7 per 1,000 live births. One of the best things about Kerala is we have a very literate population, particularly the female literacy. The life expectancy is going up, and that's why COVID is quite a threat to Kerala because of its the higher proportion of older people. Now, what is the most important thing as far as fetal cardiac screening is concerned is that almost all pregnant women in Kerala have access to antenatal care, and almost all deliveries happen in institutions. There are 6 medical college hospitals, and there are 7 centers offering pediatric cardiac care, of which 2 are in the government and 5 in the private. And I am in the center of Kerala, Cochin. That is where most of the stars are staggered, and along with 2 other centers. And then there is one center in north of Kerala and another in south of Kerala, which is the Sri Chitra Institute. The entire motivation to develop the service came from the statistics which was published by the government of Kerala called Arogya Kiranam. And in this data, they actually they found out that about 24% of infant mortality in Kerala was attributed to congenital heart defects. About 4,000 children are born every year, and now the government has launched a program to make sure that the patients who need timely surgery get that. And that is the reason why the whole focus has about training people actually came. Now, we started working on this unifying concept. So maybe the yellow person who is standing on top will be the cardiac surgeon, and all of us are the others, including me. But then the person who's standing on the top, the yellow person, will fall on his feet or on his head if the rest of us disappear. So we decided to do away with egos, and we decided to come together as a team. So in a football match, Messi or Ronaldo cannot dribble the ball from the goalkeeper, go all the way up and score goals as well. We need different people. We need a defense, we need a midfield, we need the strikers, we need people to provide the balls to the strikers. And finally, even though Ronaldo and Messi get all the credit, they have got the credit and they have become what they are only because of the teams with which they work, like Real Madrid or Barcelona. And they are the first ones to acknowledge that. So that is what we have done in our center. This is Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences, which is a large private university hospital. We started the pediatric cardiac services way back in 1999. And surgeries a year, of which about 25% are newborn. And we have received the BMJ Healthcare Award for quality improvement in 2014 for our pediatric cardiac services. The fetal cardiology services was established in 2008, about 12 years back, and we escalated this into a separate division from 2012. And we run a service 2 days a week in the Amrita, and then we also have outreach clinics. I will talk about our staff soon, and one of our biggest strengths is that we have very strong databases and follow-up. Currently, we use the Voluson equipment and along with other screening equipments, and this is the component of the team. There are many people involved, and which I will again introduce. So this is how our division is structured now. We have three aspects. We have the prenatal services, which includes fetal cardiology, fetal medicine, obstetrics. We have genetics. Then we have a high-risk obstetrics and delivery. And then we have a very, very extraordinary, prolific postnatal care division. Postnatal care division, which is what we established long time back. So this is the various teams. We have the obstetric team, what we see there, lovely ladies who give us the patients. The fetal medicine team, which Vivek Krishnan is heading with their trainees. The pediatric cardiac team, this picture was taken a few years back, but nevertheless, all the important members are still represented. And we are very, very proud of our ICU and the nursing team. Finally, they are the final pathway through which these patients transit before we get the outcome. And they are holding the BMJ trophy when we won it in 2014. Now, these are some of my key colleagues. I think some of you will know Dr. Radhamani, who is the head of obstetrics and one of my very, very close friends and supporters. She's almost like an elder sister to me. My mentor is Dr. Krishna Kumar. I think he needs no introduction. He's one of the most famous pediatric cardiologists in the world. He started the program 20 years back. This is Brajesh, the young man. He's a pediatric cardiac surgeon. Please do not get carried away by the looks. This man has done an arterial switch operation for a 1.5 kilo baby and successfully sent the baby home. So that is the level of his skill. We have one of the most famous pediatric geneticists in the world in the form of Dr. Sheila Nambudiri. And she is just an absolute genius. Then we have Dr. Jayasri, who is the neonatology chief and supports us in the care of some of these premature babies. And then, of course, you all know Vivek Krishnan very well. a young dynamic leader in our fetal medicine department. We have really captured the true concept of Kipros, the inverted pyramid approach. It starts with the first trimester screening at 11 to 13 weeks, which is done by Vivek and his team. And obviously, complex multi-system anomalies can be picked up here. My role mostly comes at the level of the mid-trimester anomaly. Sometimes Vivek does call me for an opinion for a first trimester as well. But mostly I work in that comfort zone of 16 to 20 weeks. And my job is to offer the comprehensive diagnosis. I counsel, help the family in decision making. And mostly, I think I spend most of my time talking to my colleagues. That's what my main job is, talking to my colleagues. And of course, for us, after 20 weeks, once the decision is made, we focus on following up the patient and planning the peripartum care. Now, the workflow which we follow is that we don't have an individual. We have a team. We have, each of us have our respective roles. I talk about the heart defect, the treatment options. Vivek is the person who does a complete workup of the patient. And whenever needed, we go for a full workup, including amnio and genetic information, which Dr. Sheila will interpret and counsel as well, while the obstetric team completely follows up the patient. I wanted to introduce these two ladies who hands. So maybe you can see even two right hands. The green dress is Steffi and the brown dress is Sindhu. They are our coordinators. Steffi takes care of fetal cardiology workflow, while Sindhu takes care of the pediatric cardiac workflow. And between these two extremely hardworking ladies, our program runs. In fact, they are the wheels on which our program actually runs. They and their support staff, whom I will show later. Now, this is the team. So when I started way back in 2008, obviously in Kerala as well, there was absolutely no awareness about the fetal heart screening. Dr. Khurana had been talking about these guidelines, but they were not followed ubiquitously. Somewhere here, somebody will do it. Even investigations like nuchal translucency and mid-trimester anomaly scans were considered to be luxury investigations for high-risk pregnant women. And also, I had to deal with this popular belief or myth amongst a lot of people, especially obstetricians, that treatment of heart defects is just futile, too expensive, and eventually the baby is going to die. And hence, there is absolutely no need to refer any case to a pediatric cardiologist. So we had this a mountain to climb. And hence, we set on this something like a road trip, went all over Kerala, India, then other places. I did this series of programs called the Fetal Heart. Khurana sir and Ramamurthy sir and the doyens of fetal medicine have come and graced this function. And we did 3 programs. Then we did a lot of programs with obstetricians, radiologists, and fetal medicine. I have been to several programs which Foxy conducted, including the Ahmedabad program. And of course, the Society of Fetal Medicine in 2015 called me to participate in the Fetal Cardiacon. And I think I would probably say that that was a turning point in my career. And I could actually connect with a large number of people. And now, taking the cue from fetal medicine, the Pediatric Cardiac Society also have decided that better late than never. So they also have started a drive towards more and more training in fetal cardiology. So this is what I did in Kerala. A lot of workshops. The first one was in the largest hospital in Trivandrum, SIT Hospital, which is about 15,000 deliveries per month. Then eventually, finally, I reached my own medical college in Kottayam, where I did my MBBS and did the workshop. And we also came up with these flashcards. This is the ISOAC protocol, sort of slightly modified for the regional context, the various views. This has been given to a lot of people in Kerala. And the government of Kerala also helped me to come up with this booklet for fetal heart evaluation. So just about 50 pages. It talks about a lot of things, including the workflow, how to refer, and all that things. And the health minister of Kerala was extremely kind to release it in a function. And obviously, we have a lot of committed bureaucrats and administrators in Kerala, which helped our cause as well. So together with the help of my colleagues in medical colleges and fetal medicine colleagues, including Vivek, Bijoy, and other people, we could train about 520 people, obstetricians and radiologists, in the fetal heart screening, and over something like a 2-year period. And we did not stop there. And this is actually my boss's work, Dr. Krishna Kumar. He has been a major champion for funding support for pediatric cardiac care through various schemes, including the government schemes for through the RBSK program, several NGOs, including the Genesis Foundation, the Rotary International, Healing Touch. Then we have a collaboration with an NGO in Maldives called the Tiny Hearts. The Amrita Hospital itself will provide charity services. And we also have an educational partner in the form of Children's Heart Link from America, who supported a lot of our training programs. So let us see, if this was our pediatric cardiac program, I believe we added an engine to this team. And this is how I described my contribution to my department by adding the fetal cardiology service. So let us see some of the impact of this efforts, what we have been doing over a period of time in Kerala. I think the first thing we should know is the pickup rates. When we talk about a population-based registry of patients with newborns with heart defect and look at how many of them had congenital heart disease picked up antenatally, that gives us a real picture. And this, you are going to be in a very big surprise when I give this data. And this is a prospective registry which is being followed up by multiple centers in Kerala, and they have enrolled about 1,400 newborns, of which 450 were severe and 494 were critical. And when you look at the proportion of these who had prenatal diagnosis, it is not a bad number at all. About 20% of critical and severe CHDs had a prenatal diagnosis. This is a very good figure, because it means that out of 5 babies who are born, 1 has a prenatal diagnosis of heart defect. And in Boston, it is about 50%. In Netherlands, it's about 80%. So we are hoping that through sustained efforts, this 20 can become 30, 40, and eventually 50, which means that half of the babies who are born anywhere in Kerala will have a prenatally diagnosed heart defect. So that is a very ambitious sort of a target for me personally, but I think it is possible to achieve this. Now, we are now going to talk about some management options. Now, first, let us talk about, since we are talking about very basic screening, let us talk about a 4-chamber view. So in this picture, I have shown a 4-chamber view, a normal 4-chamber view. So this is something which is possible for everybody, everyone who is putting ultrasound onto a pregnant baby's belly to look at the baby in the form of an anomaly scan should be able to get this without a question. Now, what is the importance of this 4-chamber view? The 4-chamber view helps us to diagnose most of the complex heart. Some of them are shown in these pictures. We have hypoplastic left heart syndrome, which is HLH. We have Epstein's anomaly, which is again a very severe disease. Then we have right atrial isomerism or heterotaxy. These are all very complex conditions. They do not have a normal 4-chamber view. Most of these can only be palliated in the form of multiple operations. And we know that they don't have a great long-term outcome. And sometimes we have these site of super complex heart defects. This is heterotaxy with a single outflow with a number of other associated anomalies. Like here, we had a sliding hiatus hernia. We had meningomyelocele in this patient. These slides were given to me by Vivek. And this is obviously an absolute hell, a baby with multiple complex anomalies. And if you try to palliate, and I know this because I've been doing this for the past 20 years, and most of these complex heart defects need multiple stage procedures, risks, recurring costs. And even if you do all this in the long run, the threat of a long-term Fontan failure and many complications, all these cardiac complications exist. They all need long-term medications, and many of them may end up with dysfunctional livers and kidneys when they are into their 20s and 30s. And on top of that, they have significant neurodevelopmental sequelae. So about 20% of the heart defects fall into this category. And this is a study. I'm not going to quote a lot of data, but this is an important study. This is a study from Simon Mas Place, 25-year follow-up of the entire population of Australia and New Zealand about single ventricle hearts. And at 25 years follow-up, even though 80% survived, 50% only had freedom from the heart failure. And hypoplastic left heart syndrome was at a very high risk of failure. And this is a study which showed the risk of neurodevelopmental sequelae. When you have a syndromic baby or a palliated newborn, the possibility of having a normal neurodevelopmental outcome is low. But only 20% of the heart defects fall into this category. So we published, and this is a very important paper which came from our center. This was published in the cardiology journal called Cardiology in the Young. This is European Society of Pediatric Cardiology's journal. And this spoke about the pregnancy and early postnatal outcomes of fetuses with single ventricle heart, that is only one functional ventricle. We had 504 cases, of which only 215 were born alive. 119 went for treatment with multiple operations, and about 106 were alive on last follow-up, which means that overall there was an 80% attrition rate. More than 60% of the attrition happened in utero, possibly due to termination of pregnancy, because a large number of these problems were diagnosed early, well before 20 weeks. So the live births were less, and within the live births, half of them survived. So this sort of paints a real picture of what is happening in India, a real life story. So it means that there is every effort should be put for detecting these complex problems, that proper counseling can be given. And of course, to complete the diagnostic picture in our center, we have a fetal pathology department as well, which performs the autopsy. And this is one such recent complex heart, which is actually a complex DORV heart in this case. And of course, we should do the full genetic workup, which is interpreted and counseled by the geneticist. Okay, so that's about the 20%. So what about the remaining 80% of the heart defects? That is where the good news comes. And most of these are correctable. And these are picked up by outflow tract evaluation. So in these pictures, I'm showing the crossing of outflow tracts in the top picture and the 3-vessel tracheal view in the bottom picture. And these pick up problems like tetralogy of Fallot, TGA, and coarctation of aorta. TGA is transposition of great arteries. Now, these are hearts which have normal 4 chambers, and these can be corrected with excellent outcomes. And this is our data. It is not a flash in the pan. Over a 10-year period in an international audit called the International Quality Improvement Collaborative from Boston, we have reported 5,571 cases. And the overall surgical mortality for all congenital heart defects has been a mere 2%, which means that 98% of our patients whom we operate survive, and they do well. Majority of them have normal lives on follow-up. So this is the real picture. 80% of the heart defects fall into this category, and with excellent outcomes with correction. And when do you think that they are the most risk, at the highest risk? In fact, they are very safe inside their mothers. Ideally, they should never leave the womb. They are very safe inside the womb. And perioperative period, they have a 2% risk of dying in the hands of somebody like Brajesh. So it is a period between that, before birth and reaching the operating table. That is the transitional period where most of the damage is done. So what happens during the transitional circulation? In utero, we are all blessed to have the ductus arteriosus and the foramen ovale. And when the ductus arteriosus closes, a number of conditions will now manifest. These are called the duct-dependent conditions, including pulmonary atresia, coarctation, interrupted arch, and so on. Then we have the foramen ovale dependent condition like a transposition of great arteries, and then this total anomalous pulmonary vein drainage. So this paper, again published from our center, looked at the impact of transport on arrival status and outcomes in newborn with heart defect. This is a very, very important study. And in this, we had 138 newborns, and we found out that a huge number of patients reached the tertiary pediatric cardiac center with either end organ injury or severe metabolic injury. And this was a major factor which contributed to an adverse outcome after surgery. So my mission has been to improve this, and that is where I team with the obstetricians, the fetal medicine people, and my own team to bring in a change. And my thinking was this. So for a baby who was diagnosed to have a heart defect after birth, there are a number of steps which they have to take before they reach the cardiac center. First is the pediatrician has to suspect that the baby has a heart defect. Then the cardiologist has to do an echo to confirm the diagnosis. The referral needs to happen. The transport needs to happen. The baby reaches a cardiac center. Baby has to be stabilized before surgery, and then the surgery. If you have and this is where the danger happens. All the babies collapse or crash during this period of before reaching the cardiac center. So if you have prenatal diagnosis, these steps can be eliminated and the baby can be delivered in the cardiac center, and hence the paradigm of planned delivery in a tertiary center. And this is a new paradigm. So this brings in prepared families, no newborn transport, very fast cardiac care, improved preoperative status, shorter ICU stay, lower costs, baby and the mother are together, better outcomes, and even improved neurodevelopmental outcomes. In fact, it is a game changer. If anything has changed pediatric cardiology in the recent times, it is prenatal diagnosis. So what I did was, we had a super strong pediatric cardiac program, which was established by Dr. Krishna Kumar and was doing very well. But I just merged the fetal cardiology service with this in a very seamless manner. I do all the talking and the diagnosis and coordinate with all the other people and then get the baby delivered in my center. I also do a lot of talking to the families so that I emotionally prepare the mothers and the parents about how the whole process will begin. What is the anticipated newborn course for the baby? Sometimes we even take them not to the operating room, but to the ICU. We talk about everything, outcomes, problems, so that they are mentally prepared. And these days, we also help them in getting the funds for the surgery. And this is a baby who is there in our ICU recovering after a newborn Norwood procedure for hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Now, the obstetricians in our team are extremely now in sync with how the delivery should happen, when should it happen, etc. As much as possible for the cardiac babies, we should take them to term, as much close to term as possible. Premature delivery is a disaster because this study, which was published in 2014, showed that for every 1 week before the expected date of delivery, or if you deliver the baby early, the morbidity after surgery is much higher. So all our TGS mandatorily deliver near term unless there is an obstetric reason. And we don't generally recommend cesarean section for delivering all these babies. Most of these babies can have a normal vaginal delivery. The indication for cesarean would be completely based on obstetric factors. However, if you have some of these very high risk cases, sometimes you have a transposition who has a very, very high risk situation, or an obstructed total anomalous pulmonary vein drainage, or a fetal arrhythmia. These are the situations where one would probably want to have a planned delivery, and so that the baby comes at an absolutely prescribed time. But apart from that, most of the babies are delivered by normal vaginal route. Right. So this is the first data which we published in 2015, and jointly with our obstetrics department, we delivered 120 babies with a heart defect at that point. 33 babies required newborn surgery, and all of them survived. So that actually gave me the motivation to move on and strive harder. And this is what we see now. Over the years, the number of referrals increase. And this is a very important statistic. The number of babies who are delivered in our center, newborns every year with a prenatal diagnosis of heart defect, went on increasing. Last year, even during the COVID times, it was high. Now, about 40% of the newborn cardiac admissions in Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences have a prenatal diagnosis. 40%. That is a very, very large number. And we could also, very interesting statistic, over the period of my tenure as a fetal cardiologist in Kerala, in 2012, the overall term, 2008 to 12, the termination rates in our database was 40%. It is 39% in the period 2013 to 17, but in the last 3 years, it fell to 20%, largely because of the fact that now patients can actually afford care because a lot of funded pediatric cardiac care is available in Kerala. So obviously, money matters. It's not just the facility, it's also the funding support. The newborn cardiac surgery outcomes, the preoperative status was vastly superior. I'll show the data in the next slide. Babies could go for heart surgery 5 days earlier if they had a prenatal diagnosis. And this is a very, very important statistic. When the mortality for newborns without prenatal diagnosis is 9%, the mortality of newborn after prenatal diagnosis when they undergo heart surgery was only 2.9%. So at 3 times reduction in the mortality in newborn heart surgery by prenatal diagnosis. That is a very, very, very important. And this is not 60 newborns over a 10-year period. We could demonstrate this impact of prenatal diagnosis. This is a very important study which we published and which showed that prenatal diagnosis and planned peripartum care as a strategy to improve the preoperative status. And this was a prospective study, and we could conclusively show that the prenatal diagnosis had a huge impact on the. This is a paper which was published, the latest in our publication list in the White Journal, Ultrasound in Obstetrics and Gynecology, published in last year on the prenatal diagnosis and planned peripartum care for fetuses with TGA, transposition of great arteries. We had 82 patients total. 64 of them continued the pregnancy. Only 14 were terminated. That's all. So more than 80% continued the pregnancies. 54 of these were delivered in cardiac centers. 53 were operated, and 52 survived. And when we looked at the impact of the site of delivery, and we see that the bottom graphic, when the babies were delivered in the cardiac center, the mortality was 3.7%, and when they were delivered elsewhere, it was 50%. So obviously, TGA benefits a lot by delivering in a cardiac center, and this is the single important message. So nowadays, any TGA diagnosed prenatally in Kerala goes to one of the cardiac centers and delivers there. And finally, we looked at the cost also. When we have prenatal, cost of newborn cardiac care was significantly lower when compared to the diagnosis after birth. And this was by a fraction of about 20% of the total cost. The difference was almost came to conditions like TGA, and that is a great advantage. So in summary, what was happening is that the prenatal diagnosis resulted in an improved clinical outcome at a lower cost. That is unbelievable. It is like saying Amazon gives you the best products, but at a lower cost. It is almost like that. So we have the best outcomes at a lower cost because of prenatal diagnosis. Now, just to sort of complete what we can do, now I actually added these slides today in the afternoon, because I'm sure that otherwise I would have invited a question, and I think I'm well within my time as well. So what is happening is, spoke about what either situations where termination is to be done or situations where we can actually offer planned delivery and high quality pediatric cardiac care. But in a small subset of patients, we can actually do treatment in utero before the delivery. And most of this has been for fetal arrhythmias, tachycardias, where we offer transplacental therapy and direct therapy by pacing or administration of antiarrhythmic drugs to the baby. Of course, some of you will be excited to know about the structural interventions for the fetal heart. In my introduction, the in utero aortic valve intervention described. Of course, I'm not going to talk about this later because this needs a different kind of a forum, but just understand that somebody, my colleague in Hyderabad, Nageshwar Rao, is a pioneer in this in India, in utero interventions for structural heart defects. So, but this is a very more and more about this every year. So this was an example of a 30-week fetus. This was actually the case which brought me complete confidence of my obstetrician, Dr. Radhamani. This baby was referred to at 30 weeks with a florid hydrops. This was a fetal tachycardia. You see the amount of fluid around the heart. This baby weighed 3.7 kilos at 30 weeks because of the hydrops. And it was just a very sick baby. Ascites, massively fast heart rate. We gave direct therapy, which I'll show in the next slide, to the baby, along with very high dose antiarrhythmic drugs. And the hydrops vanished after a week. Completely normal sinus rhythm. And this is done by me and Vivek. In fact, it is my policy that as much as possible, I don't put any needles inside the fetuses. I am the director of the show. Vivek is the lead actor. He does these procedures, and with my support and my I choose what medicines to be given. But I really believe that if you want to do an in utero procedures like this, the obstetrician and the fetal medicine people are far more skilled and equipped than the pediatric cardiologists. And this is a baby when she was 3 years old, absolutely fine child who started playing with the computer and all medications as well. So after this story, we have now seen about 30 fetal tachycardias, and we published our initial experience of 19 cases, of which 18 survived. There were 12 patients were delivered in sinus rhythm. 42% of our patients had hydrops, and all of them survived as well. So fetal tachycardia is something which is really, really worth the effort. We save babies. Now, finally, let us see the big picture. The whole success of this was because of the vision to develop an interconnected fetal heart network. So we went to the field and went to all the centers in Kerala, met with people, the obstetricians, the radiologists, and we developed this 3-tier service. A primary where screening for a CHD is done for all pregnancies. It is improving. Every year, the pickup rates are becoming better and better. At a secondary stage, we have a team of about 50, 60 outstandingly talented fetal medicine people. Some of you who know, they are stars by their own right, people like Bijoy Balakrishnan, Vivek Krishnan, and so on. And they have obviously contributed a lot towards training and education in Kerala. So we have stars like for doing genetic workup. So this is the stage in which the decisions are made. And then, of course, we have 8 centers in Kerala offering pediatric cardiac care, a supremely well network machine, which functions day in, day out. And I believe that all these states in India, several of them are like, I think, Delhi, Gujarat, Maharashtra, almost all the southern states, all have infant mortality rates coming below 25, including Punjab as well. And whenever the IMR becomes below 25 or 20, things like congenital heart defects become important. But if you want to develop a comprehensive service, we need this different components. You need a sound antenatal service, which diagnoses prenatal of heart defects across the board, but we do have that. We need an in utero referral network and a tertiary pediatric cardiac care, which is there in many, many places in India. We need funding support, which is possible to get. But I think the most important factor is the fact that you need a champion. We need somebody who will pitch for this, that will to actually do this. That's the most important thing. And along with the support of an institution. I think we had all these components in Kerala and Amrita, which led to the success of this teamwork. So the projected scenario is, if you do the screening of fetal heart in all pregnancies, we have 2 options. For complex heart defects, we can take the option of probably early diagnosis, counseling, and in fact, like what I said, many of the families may not continue the pregnancy, and this is possibly applicable to about 20% of the fetal heart defects. In the remaining 80%, we have good outcomes with correction, and these are situations where we need to plan the peripartum care as a team and then deliver. And this will ensure that we utilize the resources in an optimal manner and brings up with and produce the best outcomes and also reduction in healthcare costs. That's what I showed through our data. I think we are all very proud of this team. Virat was not playing for the past 2 matches, but still the others just threw up their hands and said, we will do it. We won the second match in Australia, a great victory, and even more, the Sydney match. I think yesterday's match was the way they batted and won a draw for our country against all odds. That was great. And this is the equivalent of the team in my team. In fact, this was last Christmas before COVID struck, 2019 Christmas. Both KK and I are extremely proud of this team. In fact, we spent our entire life developing this team. Okay, Dr. Krishna Kumar developed the whole service. I developed the instrumental and the fetal. I think this is a great, great team effort from our members. As Michael Jordan famously said, individuals win matches, but teams win championships. Thank you very much.
Well said, sir. Dr. Ashok Khurana, sir, are you there?
I hope everything was clear throughout.
Yeah, it was absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. Sir, wonderful presentation, mesmerizing presentation, and we can see that how much hard work you have done for developing the team. So it is not easy to have such a good team, starting from the fetal medicine expert, obstetricians, and then pediatric team, ICU staff, ICU staff nurses. They are wonderful, and you are lucky to have a wonderful cardiovascular surgeon, and you have made all kind of SOPs how to go ahead with this. So welcome, Dr. Ashok Khurana sir. Would you like to say something about the presentation and the teamwork what Dr. Balu has at his Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences? Sir.
Yes, that is everybody's dream. It's what we have to learn from him is that he's been able to get around the bureaucracy. That a bit of it came from someone who was willing to listen, but it takes one man to make a difference. We keep talking about problems. We say parents don't want this, obstetricians don't want this, but to start small and make it this big, so much that a whole state can offer this to their children, is something fantastic. And it's across all communities. There are communities who would be quite happy to terminate their pregnancy. Yes, Kerala has a large number of communities that are religiously bound to not terminate pregnancy. So they might be having a certain section, but the rest of them is actually motivation. And that's what you do. And then once you get the team, he's actually worked hard to keep that team together. That is the important thing. And then you keep proving to the government that this is a system that's working. It was a brilliant presentation, but the reason that made it so brilliant was it came from the heart. And it's his direct experience. And that is the single most important thing, that we have to realize that each one of us in every little district, in every little state, has to make sure that this is the way forward, that teamwork has to be there, that everybody from our trained nurses and midwives, etc., at the level where we know that, okay, someone had an abnormal heart baby, should be sent from the rural center to the urban or suburban center, wherever this is available. Kerala is far more urbanized than anybody else, but the other centers also, roads are so good now, and ultrasound is not expensive, and good quality ultrasound is becoming increasingly available. So the things that he pointed were very, very important. The first thing is opening our minds, that as obstetricians, as fetal medicine specialists, as radiologists, as family physicians, we need to open our minds that termination is not the answer for cardiac abnormalities. The second thing is that beyond educating ourselves, we have to educate our patients that all is not lost. And then to realize that this may be the only baby they might ever have. We know, you know from your IVF practice, Sunil, that there are so many people who will never conceive again after termination of pregnancy. And people seem to think it can't happen to me, or that tomorrow they can buy a surrogate. But that's not the easiest thing to do. The fourth thing which you highlighted was that we have to find out the genetic basis to decide in terms of a prognosis. And that, again, is very important. Yes, genetic tests tend to be expensive, but we can find labs where we send larger numbers, and then we realize that it's working out correctly because we give them larger numbers, the test becomes cheaper. Or there are philanthropic companies who you appoint to every teaching institution or hospital who agree that, okay, we will support this kind of an approach. And then the rest of the rolling starts. That means someone does a good ultrasound scan at 12 weeks or 19 weeks, finds these problems and sends them on. And equally importantly, like he said, if there are late referrals, create support for those individuals and make sure that we will give them the best. And it's not easy. For instance, I know how much he had to struggle to get the right catheter and the right amount of balloon that would help dilate that aortic valve, and how much we had to wait patiently for the whole day for the fetus to come into the right position and so on. It's not been an easy job. It's not that that the baby will lie down and the baby will say, okay, here's my heart, and dilate my aortic valve. That's not happening. But we have to catch them at the right time. The one thing that we have to work on, most importantly, is to realize that all of us have to act as centers which refer. That means it's not possible in every town or in every state to have this. And we need to have apex centers, 2 or 3 in the country, where all these babies can be referred to. And they have an excellent, for instance, I know that at Amrita, they have a fabulous dharamshala system where the family can go and stay, or a resort in case the family can afford it. And then they stay there for the rest of the pregnancy and work it all out without difficulty. And that is what we have to be ready for. And that is to say that, yes, that we will support this child throughout and improve the outcome. Late referrals, we will do something for them. We have only 3 or 4 centers. We don't develop this expertise at a mass level. People will get referred to places like this, and then we take it on from there. That is important. And of course, places with a heart. We do realize that this is a private institution he's working in, and yet the poorest of poorest have been able to get the advantage. And the people who can afford treatment don't feel neglected. That is the most fantastic thing of realizing that every patient needs to be individualized from a biological point of view, from an obstetric point of view, and from a socioeconomic point of view.
Sunil sir, actually today I had this, as Ashok sir said, one family who came to me. A mother was 47 years old and the father was 55 years old. Huge, long history of infertility and IVF conception. The baby had, somebody told there's a heart defect. It was TGA. And I mean, it was actually very difficult because the kind of emotions which we have to deal, and it took me an hour. That's why I missed Vasu's, rehearsal for this. But I suspected the only reason why I need rehearsal for this sort of thing is the technical part. I speak from my heart, as Ashok sir said. I don't need rehearsals for talking about this. But I made sure will be delivered and will be given to them in a safe condition. It is like I just told them that it is on me. I will take care of that. Your child will be treated and sent home with a good outcome. So I think they went back home with a lot of happiness and confidence. So I spoke to madam and referred the case for everything delivery, and we know that the system can take care of this. I think this has been the most gratifying thing, And my oldest arterial switch patient has joined medical college in Calicut. He's 19 years old. So,
Great.
And when they come and say that is unbelievable, that also tells all of you that I'm not so young. I'm also pretty into my middle age, but then it is a truly satisfying story. So I have 2 mentors in my profession. One is KK and the second is AK. And I'm so happy that my mentor in fetal medicine introduced me and spoke so many good things about what I have done. And I think without Ashok sir's support, I would not have reached anywhere in this field. He owns me practically.
Superb, sir. Superb. Excellent. So, excellent, sir. Very nice. So, you have given us all the obstetrician because we have all the delegates in the form of obstetrician today. So, wonderful carry-on messages you have given to all the obstetricians that prenatal diagnosis of congenital heart disease is key. 20% are the complex heart diseases where we are not able to do anything. But in 80% of the cases, we can do a much thing but we expect. So abortion is not the final answer for that. So in 80% of the cases, we can do a very good thing. And as you have rightly mentioned and explained the data, that the death rate of all these surgeries of more than 6,000 cardiac diseases, less than 3%. So excellent work. So I think such kind of a institute has to be developed. No, it's good that you have, but has to be developed everywhere in India, and the teamwork has to be developed. So I am so happy. And another carry home message which you said is that near term delivery should be there, right? So take baby as close to the term as possible, and normal delivery is also possible in cardiac disease, except few which you have mentioned. So wonderful carry-on message is given by Dr. Balu to all the obstetrician and the fetal medicine experts. Thank you very much. Anything else, Dr. Balu and Dr. Ashok Khurana, you want to add or want to give some tips to the obstetricians in addition to the presentation in 1 or 2 lines? carry on message, key points?
The
Ashok
most
sir would say.
that, you know, the first counseling by the fetal medicine person and the obstetrician makes the difference between life and death for that embryo or fetus. And we have to give it the option of life.
Correct. Very good.
And
True.
if we change our attitude and we have people like Balu, we can promise them the world.
That is it. I think the message from me is that pediatric cardiologists cannot do this alone, because prenatal diagnosis and prenatal counseling, prenatal management is basically the realm of fetal medicine people and obstetricians. They hold the key. Without their confidence, without their support, and without their involvement, this cannot happen. And I think if I take any success from what I have done, it's only because I learned the language of obstetricians, fetal medicine people, and radiologists. That is where we need to break that Berlin Wall, and we need to have that find that language which we all understand. I think that has been the most important message for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. We have learned so many things. Thank you very much for sharing knowledge about the cardiology, fetal heart defects and the teamwork. On behalf of the Foxy, I thanks Corona for this webinar. I respectfully also thanks Dr. Ashok Khurana sir for helping us arranging this webinar and selecting Dr. Balu Vaidyanathan for this presentation. Thank you very much.